Hello, hello, and welcome to the Telescope Show. We laugh, we discover God, and we totally nerd out. My name is Matthew Seipel Anderson.
And I am Katie Seipel Anderson.
And we are super excited to have you listening tonight.
Super.
Just because it was slow doesn't mean it's not super.
Maybe it's super because it's slow.
Well, Katie, you look like you are gearing up to tell me something.
I am. I have some interesting did-you-knows about the original Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Ooh, how fitting, because today we're talking about the Rings of Power series on the show.
Coincidence? I think not. So, according to, oh no, I know, I just forgot, Mental Floss.
That's a great website name, by the way.
I mean, Floss is good. Sean Connery was interviewed or up for the role of Gandalf.
I can see that.
Can you picture him saying, "You shall not pass"?
Oh, it would be glorious in that accent of his. Yeah.
So that would be Sean Connery. But apparently he never really understood the script. He said that he read it, he read the book, he saw the movie, but he still doesn't really understand it. And he's like, you can do that for short term, but an 18-month commitment, he wasn't feeling it, apparently. According to Mental Floss, at least.
You know, those of you listening, you know you had that one person in your life who doesn't get it. They don't get this stuff the way we do.
Or you might have 5 or 6 or 50 of those people too.
And you know what? That's okay. You just have to love them and accept the fact that they're just not going to love the same things that you love.
It takes all kinds of people to make up our wide world.
That's right.
Speaking of people, did you know that people can be horses too, apparently?
What?
Or at least ponies in Lord of the Rings. Because apparently in at least one of the scenes, Bill the pony was a panto pony.
Hello, here's my panto pony.
Which apparently is 2 people who dress up as a pony.
It's always a bummer to be the guy in the back of the panto pony suit.
Apparently it was too hard to work with a live animal in a swamp. So they did the panto pony because people are easier to work with in swamps.
Well, people understand paychecks, so, you know.
People also understand, hey, don't step there, that's swamp.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah, very true, very true. Well, hey, did you know that if you just love the world of Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and Rings of Power, you can go to discovernewzealand.com and you can take a tour of the locations where they filmed all these things.
All the locations?
Well, I don't know.
Did they keep them all up?
I don't know how exhaustive it is. I think a lot of it is just nature.
Oh, so you don't really have to set that up. That's just kind of there.
Yeah, and some of it is there. I know Hobbiton is there. They've created a permanent version of Hobbiton that you can tour and hang out and probably buy souvenir mugs from the Prancing Pony and all that stuff. Yeah, I think a lot of the other destinations were just places where they filmed.
That would be fun. It would be fun to see New Zealand. And if I went to New Zealand, I think I would probably have to make the trek to Hobbiton.
I would agree. I mean, why not? You've gone all the way around the world. You've got to see it. Well, as I said earlier, today we are talking about The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. So, Katie, there is a lot going on in the Rings of Power in these first couple episodes.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of different storylines developing.
And we're assuming that those storylines are going to converge and intertwine over the course of the show.
I mean, I think that's pretty clear, because there's still just the classic good versus evil.
Right.
That is just very prevalent in the first couple episodes.
And so we've decided that we're going to do a follow-up episode next week to unpack some of this other stuff. But today we want to focus on what we feel like is the main storyline. So other storylines that we might talk about next week would include the politics of Middle-earth with Elrond and Gil-galad and all those guys, the Rings of Power being created. And also, we've got some common folks.
If you can actually call elves common at all. They seem a little uncommon. a little extra.
We're getting a glimpse into the life of an elf soldier. So I guess not an elf lord, just an elf soldier. But he seems like he's going to have a very important role.
And of course, there's a love story in there.
There's some awkward moments where they acknowledge feelings, but they're not really sure where to go with it yet. So that's going to be cool. Cool to see how that develops. And then, of course, we've got Nori and the Harfoots.
And we've got the stranger.
The stranger. Dun, dun,
Stranger
dun.
danger. But the main character of the first 2 episodes, I would say, is solidly Galadriel.
Yes.
Although we've got a lot of other moving parts. They've introduced some humans too. Like she met humans and some other characters. Leaves us with a lot of questions. But I'd say solidly, so far we know the most about her. We know the most about her backstory.
And it appears that she is going to have a massive opportunity to say, I told you so, to pretty much everyone else.
Assuming she leaves the water at some point.
I think that's a pretty fair assumption.
Well, I suppose because in Lord of the Rings, she's not stranded in water. So however many centuries later, she's definitely left the water.
Galadriel's an interesting character because in The Lord of the Rings, she's so confident and powerful and lordly and respectable. But she's pretty different here.
She's searching. She's a warrior. She's like a warrior, and she's searching, and she's kind of confused, and she doesn't know the right way.
And she has this restless spirit.
I can relate. Sometimes I feel a little restless. I'm not going to go like harpoon a troll or something, but...
That's good. I can be a little trollish before morning coffee kicks in, so I'm glad I could be a victim in that scenario. So where do you think the character of Galadriel is going?
Yeah, she has a kind of an interesting storyline going on where she's still she was searching, but it seems like she's really defined what she needs to do, which is also interesting because she doesn't have as much of a role in the actual Lord of the Rings trilogy when the evil comes back a second time or a third time or whatever it is. But right now, for this time, she's not willing just to let it lie. But there's kind of this interesting dynamic where she knows that it's out there. She doesn't believe that it's just gone, but she just doesn't know what her role is. Is her role done now? Can she just go enter into that eternal bliss? Or does she still need to fight longer? And you can see the struggle. And at the end, she decides to abandon the ship to eternity of bliss and continue fighting the evil.
And the show has so many spiritual undertones, like even in what you're just describing, like eternity and almost like a heavenly future, but she chooses not to go that route. So we always like to talk about faith in this show. So how does this storyline help you see God? How can you see God like maybe reflected in all this stuff?
No, it is interesting with this because unlike a lot of other shows, there is like a clear evil out there. It's just people have different approaches to it. Some people kind of want to ignore it, pretend like it's not there. Other people want to just keep fighting it. And some people probably actually don't really realize what it is even or what's going on with it. But sometimes it's hard to, even when you can see clear injustice, see clear evil, see clearly something's wrong and you see it, it's hard to know what your role is. But it seems like with Galadriel, like especially with what the advice her brother gave her and that kind of stuff, like, you know, sometimes you need to touch the darkness to know what is truly the right way for you, to truly be able to follow the light. You could argue that she was touched by the darkness. Her brother, she suffered major loss. Her brother was killed by it. And so that really helped her define what she needed to do. And I think it helped her keep the fight going.
She made this really hard choice to stay in Middle-earth and continue her fight and continue her struggle against evil because she just felt it would be wrong to abandon it. But she still doesn't quite know the whole path that's in front of her. But she really is just trusting that she's doing the right thing by keeping her eyes on goodness and following what she feels like she should do. And I think that's something that plays out in our life as Christians. We have these feelings like we need to do something with our life. And so we just start taking steps towards that, but we don't know the whole path yet.
And it is interesting that life experiences really helped to define the type of role she was taking. You know, where it was like Elrond might be taking a different type of role with his political leanings and that kind of stuff. When they were talking about it, he was kind of like, you've done your part, you've done enough, it's been good. And she's like, but you haven't seen what I've seen. You know, you haven't experienced what I've experienced. And sometimes it's almost like when you experience things, when you experience injustices, or when you see evil and you like don't shut your eyes to it, or don't, you know, that really helps to define how you can make a difference.
I like how you mentioned her using her life experiences and, you know, the places where she had, you know, touched that darkness. Those were the things that shaped her into who she is and helped her see what path she should take. And I think sometimes we can't overthink what we should do with our life, and sometimes the answer is right in front of us. It's the things that spark something inside of us, the thing that connects with our life experience, the thing that we can do. Sometimes we have a dream of we want to do something way out there, but maybe right now all we can do is what's right in front of us.
The touch of the darkness and the things that she experienced actually just make her better at what she knows she's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. You know, what I see when I'm thinking about this story and kind of a spiritual insight is the advice that Galadriel's brother gave her to look at the light, and that will help her to float above the darkness. And even though those negative things that affect our life, they do shape us, and God can use those things for good. But also, if all we focus on is the negative thing that happened to us, that's when we really start to sink. And so I like how in this show, goodness is portrayed as so strong and so desirable. You know, just that purity. And the characters themselves aren't perfect. They are flawed characters, but there is this idealistic goodness, like that's good and true and strong and desirable. And I really like that orienting factor of just goodness and beauty.
And badness and darkness and evil too. The contrast between the two. But then you have a character like the stranger and you're like, is he good or is he bad?
Is he light or is he dark?
And it's really tough to tell, and they really keep you guessing.
Does he like coffee or is he pure evil? Just kidding. No offense to you tea drinkers.
I like tea. I'm drinking tea right now. I just like coffee too.
So
don't put me in a box.
So looking forward, yeah, a huge question we have is, who is Meteor Man? Who is this guy who fell from the sky? There are two running theories right now, and we were like arguing about this earlier.
I'm pretty sure it's like an original wizard or something. Maybe at first I thought maybe Gandalf, but then when I learned more about kind of the timeline and stuff, maybe it was more, I think they're called the Blue Wizards or something, because they actually came during this time frame, or it's in the unofficial, according to Google, the unofficial Tolkien notes say that they were as kind of predecessors to like the Gandalf era of wizards, and they came earlier.
Yeah, and a wise writer would want to include things in this show that are familiar to Lord of the Rings. So it does make a lot of sense that they would grab onto, even if it's just this little thread that they can pull, like, okay, Tolkien mentioned that maybe some wizards came earlier, and they're not really mentioned much in his other stories, so maybe we can figure out a role to give them that doesn't interfere with anything in the Lord of the Rings. So that would be really cool if it was a wizard.
Then the Harfoot is all like, oh, I feel a responsibility to this guy, giant according to them. But then he also does things like sometimes looks at them and you're like, whoa, that's bad. And then sometimes he does things and he like seems so confused and alone and sad. And you're like, oh, he just needs someone to help him. But then he like kills fireflies. But then he seems a little sad and then not sad about it. So I don't know. It is confusing. They keep you guessing.
Another theory that's out there that was my theory for a while, though I think I might be coming over to your side. But for the sake of argument, the other theory is that it is actually Sauron. That Sauron used the dark evil magic that they talked about in episode 1 to come to Middle-earth in a form that is unrecognizable to anyone, And, when they first found Meteor Man, they said the coals, even though they were glowing red, weren't hot, which reminds us of, the fire in episode 1 when they were in that evil fortress. It was so evil that the torches didn't even give off light. And so maybe this guy is actually just pure evil. But who knows?
He also seems so disoriented and confused. That doesn't seem like that would be Sauron.
He doesn't seem like a crafty, evil Dark Lord. Unless a crafty, evil Dark Lord doesn't want to appear like a crafty, evil Dark Lord.
Well, then that'd be super, super crafty. And very evil.
The other big question, which I think we have a pretty educated guess about, but the question is, who are the people in the large ship that comes and rescues Galadriel and her new friend when they're out on their little raft? And we think these people are the Númenóreans, because they are a group of people who are going to play a huge role in the show, but we haven't met them yet.
And they're from an island country, and so they know ships and how to navigate them and
That's
stuff.
their jam. They're out there on the water.
So they definitely would be very different than the last people she met who were just kind of floating on rafts, running away from orcs. And they seemed very authoritative. I guess to the one small scene that we saw with them, they didn't strike you as I wonder what's going on. They were kind of
these are our oceans.
I'm here. And
strangers, where ye be from?
I don't think they're going to have that accent.
No, I think they're going to be lordly and well-spoken. There are so many amazing storylines and things we could talk about that I think we just have to cut ourselves off. But we're looking forward to episode 3 and seeing where that brings us and unpacking some of this stuff more. So,
and
Katie?
I'm also looking forward to seeing more of She-Hulk. That's a totally different side note, but just so you know, I have not forgotten about She-Hulk.
She-Hulk, we have not forgotten you.
And Willow's coming up, too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be great.
So I got some fun stuff coming up.
Absolutely. Just in time for cool weather. It's going to be good. All right, everyone. That's it for today. We love you. Take care. Don't forget to connect with us through Facebook, through our website, thetelescopeshow.com. Head over, leave us a nice review. That really helps people to discover the show. And because your friend will probably get you a better Christmas gift if you share this show with them.
Christmas is around the corner.
All right, love you. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.